Welcome to Dine.
From table to travel.
We will feed your soul.
And inspire your wanderlust.
Now, this is our first episode, and I think that deserves a toast. So what are you going to be drinking, Mom?
I'm going to be drinking, La Bota de Pedro Jimenez.
Jimenez. Pedro Jimenez.
Jimenez, that you brought me about 20 years ago, remember?
Yes, I do. I bought that in Seville, in Spain, and then just on a whim, because I was so close to Morocco, I went backpacking through Morocco. So I carried that through the desert and then back to Spain, and then I flew it all the way home.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And how about you?
I am drinking Angel's Envy from Bourbon Country in Kentucky.
Oh, you were just in Kentucky.
I was. I drove down to Kentucky and Tennessee. I love road trips. I like driving in the U.S., and every day was episodic. There's always something incredible there, and there's no truer taste of place than whiskey.
Well, l'chaim.
Yes, l'chaim. All right, Mom. So normally I'd be out in the country, but clearly I'm not right now. But I'm in the country generally. You're in the city. Let's start with some news, and you tell me what you're bringing to the table. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
News of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Harbor 60 will be reopening soon after extensive renovations, and most steak lovers will agree that this is the best of the best. And it all starts from the top. Ted Nicolau, who opened Harbor 60, is a man of exemplary good taste. And this was always evident at Harbor 60. Now his children have taken over, and they've done a spectacular renovation. You know, this was an old building. And I'm sure that they will carry on the tradition of excellence.
It's amazing that that place has been able to exist where it is in Toronto after all these years. It's like a historical site that has to remain a steakhouse.
Right. And it has a parking lot.
Yeah.
And from Inc. Entertainment, there is a new over-the-top elaborate steakhouse.
Okay.
Contrary to this elaborate decor, the name of the restaurant is Animal. Farmyard to table.
That's not such an appetizing name.
I envision beautiful cows with great big eyes, and somehow the name Animal for a place where you eat. What do you think?
So that reminds me of years and years and years ago when I lived in Kyoto. I went to a restaurant in the Gion district where it was my first taste of Wagyu beef. I think it was Matsuzaka Gyu. It wasn't Kobe. And what they did was they brought me the steak so I could see it, but then they brought me a menu inside of which was a Polaroid picture of the cow. Its name was Yumiko, which means dream child, and its parents, its lineage. And I thought, oh my God, you need to tell me its hobbies. It was somehow off-putting. I love the steak though, but somehow I don't need to know any of that. I don't want it to be called Animal or Yumiko.
Well, we'll see how it goes. What have you
I'm sure
heard?
it'll be fantastic.
Yeah. What have you heard, Adam?
Okay, so on the travel front, there's been a lot of trends happening. First of all, there's a new trend called trip stacking. And that is, instead of the usual 7-day trip, Canadians are now making more long-haul trips. And this is according to Flight Centre. People are traveling longer, 10 to 14 days, and they're booking multiple trips back to back. So you don't just go to one country, you go to multiple countries. And the second trend that's happening is a reaction to climate change. People taking coolcations, Canadians who are seeking weatherproof destinations. You'll remember a friend of mine took his family skiing last winter to Andorra, of all places, and there was no snow. So, people who are seeking certain activities in the winter and they want to make sure that there's snow there, or people who are traveling in the summer and don't want to die from the heat. You remember in Athens, there was just throngs of people at the Parthenon collapsing, and there was no water. So now the trend is that people for whom climate consciousness and comfort in travel is important. According to the Flight Center, Canadians are drawn to destinations with temperate climates like Norway or Churchill, Manitoba, destinations that have a natural resilience and opportunities to avoid heat and overcrowding. I get that. So I'm interested in unique out-of-the-box experiences. We're called Dine and destinations because what do you do before and after a meal? It's got to be cool. And I'm always looking for something out of the box, particularly if it's in Ontario, in our own backyard. We have so many hidden gems within Ontario. This summer, I was alerted to Elora, and we all know how beautiful Elora is. It's so charming, and when you're there and you're looking out of these limestone structures, you may as well be in Central Europe. I discovered a place. Well, I didn't discover it, but for me, I did. It's called One Axe Pursuits, and what I did with them was urban rappelling. You know when you rappel down a cliff, Mom? Have you ever done that?
Are you kidding?
Well, this is urban rappelling. So you jump out of a building. And what we did was we climbed to the top of a church steeple and then just kind of jumped out and Tom Cruised our way down, which was so much fun. And then we continued on to a park where we rappelled down the cliffside and swung into a cave where we could have lunch before continuing on down to the river. I thought that was extraordinary. And I really felt like we'd gone through a portal into some other part of the world, and yet it was just an hour away from Toronto. So we have with us here the man behind One Axe Pursuits, Frederick Schuett. Is Frederick there? Bring on Frederick. There he is.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you. And what is behind you?
This is a part of my equipment room. So yeah, ropes, harnesses, helmets, some of which you've used on our program.
Yes. And now what I'm very interested in is, of course, you have these really extraordinary activities during the summer, the zip lining, climbing, rappelling. But what about in the winter? Are you offering anything that we should be looking at to shake the doldrums in January?
Yeah. So for 20 years, we've been running ice climbing programs in Ontario. And as you mentioned, climate change, the last maybe 5 or 6, 7 years, the weather's been getting warmer in Ontario. So I actually started building my own ice in Elora to run ice climbing programs. So even though there may not look like there's any snow or ice in Toronto, you can easily check our website, and usually through the entire winter, we have reliable ice here to climb on.
That's so cool. Mom, you want to do that?
Climb on ice on purpose?
Yes.
So you get axes.
You do get tools.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah. So you'll have tools kind of like, ice axes. There's a few variety of kinds, but you'll be climbing with tools. And then you'll be swinging into the ice as you climb up. And then you'll have boots that we supply. We supply all the equipment, and then spikes. I don't know if you can see the spikes on these boots. But yeah, so it's definitely a unique experience, but it's super fun. You don't have to make it to the top. You just have to try it and have fun. You could go up a few meters and you're happy. That's all you need to do, come down, or you can try hard. And you have multiple routes. You can try, and every route's slightly different. Some are easier than others, and they mostly start easy and get slightly harder near the top. So it is a great experience.
And do you do that in the Gorge?
We do it in the Gorge. It's actually just maybe a 2 or 3 minute walk from our office. So we literally start indoors. We have a room that's about 10 degrees Celsius, which we keep it cold. Like that's when you come in with your winter clothing on, you don't overheat. And we do a demo indoors on how to ice climb and talk about all the safety. It's different than rock climbing, where someone might have an idea of how to rock climb it. There's a bit of a technique heavy thing with ice climbing. There's a bit of a technique. So we kind of go over that and how it works. And if you follow the technique, it's quite easy to move up on the ice. And then we just walk down the street to the Gorge and we start climbing on the ice.
That's great. And do you still
I would have nightmare.
Well, I'll do it and you can watch.
Yeah.
Do you still have
Just tell me about it.
do you still have the urban rappelling in
We
the
do. So the urban repellent, that's available all winter long as well. And that's because it's inside. Our office is in the church that you repelled out of. So yeah, our office is open and the church is always available. And that's a shorter program. It's only a 2-hour program, usually an hour to 2 hours, depending on your group size to repel out. Usually go down 3 times down the building. So it's a lot of fun. And with that one, I don't know, Adam, if you did the trap door in the bell tower. Yeah. So there's a trap door. We open up the floor and you can go through the floor as well. And that is for people that are a little too nervous to go out the window.
Out the window.
Yeah, it's a 60-foot drop. If you were too nervous, we would bring you down a few levels and you would go indoors through the trap door, which is great for kids or people that think they want to do it, but they might be a bit nervous. That's a great warm up to then go out the steeple of the window.
Yeah, you took me to church. We
took you right up there.
We did it again.
Yeah.
That was fun. And you have something else that sounds really cool called Mission Impossible.
Yeah, so that's a program we developed years ago for corporate team building, but we've done it a lot with birthday parties, groups, birthday party, like a 50th birthday party or bachelor party. So that's indoors inside our church building. It's hard to explain, but the closest thing that people can relate it to would be like an escape room. Except escape rooms are usually 1 hour and they're kind of chaotic. This is a 4-hour program that's very well laid out, and you have 4 missions that you have to complete. That you have written instructions on how to do that, and then you'll be someone like myself there going through the stations with you. We're kind of your sector leader, we call it, and we're there to clarify questions because you will get a mission. Think of the James Bond movie. This is your mission, and you have to complete it, and you'll have a certain amount of time. And depending on how many people are in the group, depends how the game plays out. But normally, if it's a smaller group, you'll run through all the stations, and there's a laser field that your team will be going through. So it's literally a 50-foot laser field with laser beams in the dark with some smoke so you can see the lasers.
Wow.
And you're moving through as a team, helping each other through the lasers. If you touch any lasers, alarms go off. There's a steel briefcase at the end that's motion sensitive that has a Hollywood bomb inside it, very flashy, pretty thing. Very, it's been in a couple TV shows. It's realistic enough. And you literally get your instructions and all these tools and you go right in and you're literally cutting wires and you're destroying the bomb to deactivate this thing. It's great. It has a few alarms in it itself. If you do something wrong, you lose some points as the buzzers go off.
Cool. So you go, listen, first of all, it's 1-axe pursuits.
Yes.
You check it out through 1-axe pursuits. And then I could see that. That's like a fabulous winter's day. And then afterwards, you go for hot chocolate or dinner at Elora Mill.
Yes. And so the great thing is we are so close to this, like we're just a walk away from all the restaurants. And same with ice climbing. Some people will even go have a coffee in the middle of the ice climb. They'll climb for a couple hours. They're like, okay, I need a break. They'll literally hike up the gorge, walk downtown, get a hot chocolate or get a sandwich at the restaurant, come back, and then continue to climb a bit more. Yeah.
So, Mom, you would put your axes at 7:00.
I would put my axe at 7:00. Yeah.
And then go for a coffee. That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to do it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Frederick. I think it's very cool. 1-axe pursuits in Elora. Take care.
Bye.
Now, you were saying before you wanted to get back to the city.
Yes. Let's turn the page back to the city now.
Okay.
One of my favorite chefs for, 30 years or so, Claudio Aprile.
Yes. Well, when I think of Claudio Aprile, I think of a man on a motorbike, freewheeling on some open road somewhere. I think of Exile on Main Street playing in the back, while Miles Davis portraits are warding off evil spirits in the front. He is the Chuck Yeager of Toronto's culinary world, breaking sound barriers before there were Michelin stars. There's no artifice, no pretense, and his only tattoos are the stamps in his passport. Claudio's school is the road, it's the streets, it's the markets, and there's a unique respect for Claudio Aprile among chefs because he cannot be carbon copied. He's an original, and he is here with us now.
Wow. Thank you for such a illustrious introduction. Thank you.
Well, it's so good to see you.
Great to see you too. Yeah, we're in the technical glitches, and here we are.
Yeah, well, there's always got to be technical glitches to make it worth it.
Yeah, the struggle.
So, Claudio, you were born in Uruguay. Your family
I was.
Yes, your family is Italian. You knew from a very early age that you wanted to cook. There must have been some profound early experience with food and cooking that inspired that ambition, and particularly at a time when becoming a chef was not in vogue. So, was it hunger that drove you? What was it?
That's actually an interesting way to look at it. I would say that the kind of the cliche story now, because I hear this all the time, is my grandmother really inspired me. She was a chef, and my mother was a seamstress for most of her life, 50 years. She's still alive, still kicking. And just watching them both work. I mean, my grandmother, I was only very, very young, from like 0 to 4 years old. That's the only time I ever really knew her. But there are reports that I would spend a lot of time with her in the kitchen and eating raviolis off the counter and getting into trouble.
Yeah.
I remember, so I was in Uruguay just for a little bit. I was traveling in Argentina, but what I found there was mainly asados and tanat, which is a grape varietal I'd never heard of until I was in Uruguay. But
That's not the Christopher Nolan film, is it?
what's that? No. But one of the things I think of with you is this one meal that I had when I was on that trip. I was at Zuccardi Winery in Mendoza, and in Argentina. And the chef, to start the meal, he brought out a cocktail glass with a kumquat gelato, and it was topped with cherry tomatoes that had been lavished and lacquered in their olive oil. It was beautiful. And it was surprising because this was dessert. But the chef said, we all want dessert, so why not start with it? And I thought that was very impressive. And it's a similar philosophy to you. In your, when I think of your menus, it's deconstructing a rigid order. So you can eat in any direction and you won't be out of place. You could start with dessert, or like some Quentin Tarantino style of storytelling, it somehow flows. And so what I'm wondering is, when you do that, when you put a menu together, are you zooming out from that dish and that course and thinking about shaking up the whole experience, or is it just trying to create this montage of dishes that all pair in any direction?
I think it's almost interesting, because I kind of changed my answer to that question a lot. But right now, what I'm thinking, and I think this is a real answer, is I think once I have an audience in my captivity, so to speak, in a restaurant environment, people have paid to be there, travel, paid for parking, babysitting, all that stuff. Like, I really do look at it as such a privilege, really, to be in that position where you are cooking food and people are coming to you to eat your food. Like, it's a very interesting exchange. And I have always had the goal of creating something that you cannot create yourself at home, or otherwise, why would you do all of these things to go to this restaurant? And I really feel that I think it's just such an exciting thing. It's a theater. Like, it's like I love the curation of a restaurant, from the finding the location, the signage, the uniforms, how tactile things can be, whether it's the business cards, the menus, the lighting, the sound. But when you really strip it back, it's really all about one thing, and that's hospitality. Like, are you creating an environment where guests feel really, really welcome? I think that is such an art, really, to be able to figure that out. And I've seen I've seen restaurants where the owners will spend, $3,000 a square foot. And I've seen restaurants where there's a budget, maybe they only have $50 a square foot. And I really feel that hospitality is luxury. Like it doesn't need to be something that's super expensive. And I know Adam, you traveled extensively, and Sarah, of course, you travel, all over the world, and you've experienced this firsthand that you can go into a little village in Japan and have the most beautiful, groundbreaking food in someone's house, and it would just blow your mind. And I think that we mistaken sometimes, you give almost luxury more value, more credibility than you should. And I think that really beautiful hospitality is something that will never go out of style. I don't think it'll ever be in danger of artificial intelligence. I think it's something that's really here to stay because it makes us feel something. And then I know I'm going off on it, but I really feel that very strongly.
Well, at the end of the day, it's the luxury is in a way part of the authenticity. I think we seek authenticity, and if someone is catering to you authentically and being authentically hospitable and nurturing with what they're providing, that's luxury. And you were talking about how much it costs per square foot. Sometimes that's a luxury that people try to buy with their location or with the accoutrements, and sometimes you can skip that and just have a little nook in a corner or in someone's house, and you have an abundance of that because the luxury is in the authenticity.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like just what you feel. Like if someone were to say to you, tell me about a great food experience that you have, you could remember that. And if they said to you, what was the chair like that you were sitting on? You might have really struggled to think back, well, what was that chair? Or, what was the lighting like? Was it expensive? Was it cheap? But you will remember how you feel, and you will remember how a server makes you feel, the hostess when you walk in, what you feel. I think that's something that you do take with you, and it just makes you feel alive. And I think ultimately, if you really break human existence down to the fundamental parts, it's all about feeling alive, feeling present, feeling something. And it goes above and beyond material.
I always felt that the most intimate thing that a couple can do in public is to sit down in a restaurant and eat together.
Yeah, for sure.
It's something special. And that goes along with, you might not remember the food, but you'll always remember your welcome and how the restaurant made you feel.
Oh, absolutely. I remember, and I have a very good memory. I remember meeting you in Forest Hill at Preemie, and you and your husband would come in, and Adam was this little guy. And I do remember those moments. I remember being very nervous and, going out to if I hadn't heard it, go out to a table and say hello. And it was just the beginning of my career. And I remember those moments really well. And I also kind of going off on a bit of a tangent, but I think that the role that encouragement plays in all our lives, whether it's cooking or writing or acting, architecture, whatever it may be, painting, it has such a important part in all our lives to hear, you're doing good, kid. I think you're going to go somewhere. Or I think that I like this fish a lot, but I wasn't so keen on this. And I remember with Sarah, the way she would write, it was always like, it was a learning moment for chefs. I know a lot of chefs feel this way. They go, wow, well, you know what? I was a tough writer. It was a little bit of a hard, pill to swallow, and I learned something from it. It was never me. And I think I look back at my relationship, with you, Sarah, how you're just such an ambassador for the arts and culture. But you did it, and you still did it. Such so much class, and we live in a world where there's not a lot of class anymore. people are hiding behind their screens and taking shots, and I think there's so much value in having people around you that help you, guide you, and I think that's really, really critical.
You always earned it and you always deserved it. And every restaurant, you just get more innovative, more creative, and better.
Oh, appreciate that.
But
I always worry, is your best work ahead or behind you? I think
ahead, always ahead. Adam?
Well-
well, just one second. I want to ask you a question about MasterChef. So you're a judge on MasterChef. And there was a time when I was writing reviews for the Sunday Sun, and there was me and Joanne Cates and Cynthia Wine, who were the three critics of the day, and we each have our own very strong opinions. If we had to judge a meal together, I'm sure that we would disagree. So here you are, all chefs from 3 different countries, cooking 3 different styles of cuisines, and on the screen, you nod wisely to each other as though you all agreed in seconds. What happens away from the camera? You can't possibly agree with each other on each dish. I would like to be a fly on the wall when you're discussing these things.
Yeah. This hour has 22 minutes. I think I think that time is of the essence, and it's very time sensitive doing any television show. We have lots of disagreements for sure. Alvin has a very different aesthetic, incredibly talented, very creative. Michael has a very pure simplicity to the way that he processes food. I don't think he enjoys a lot of bells and whistles. I think he likes solid, very good, strong techniques. I like more, I think, the element of surprise. I find that more stimulating than always tradition. So we all have to have a different kind of approach to it. We do arrive at I guess a crossroads together where we do agree, and sometimes we disagree.
I was responsible for bringing Alvin to this show.
Oh, you're the one that
I introduced him, yes. And I was there when Michael Bonaccini first arrived in Toronto, and there was a big press conference, and he told us about his ideas of purity that he had learned at the Dorchester in London. And I know you since you were an early chef at Primi. And I know,
incredible. Yeah.
I know that you are all so different, which is great for MasterChef. And it kind of makes it really interesting.
Well, I don't know what's going on in the MasterChef world. I know that they're ready to back. Michael, Alvin, and myself are not involved with the 2.0 version. And so I don't know what the next steps are. I'm excited to see who these new judges are. I love the show. I have only fond memories of it. But that is something I'm curious to see where that goes.
Do you think that from the first season to the last season of it, there was an evolution of the home cooks, like in terms of expectation or in what they brought to the show? Are people becoming more creative, more innovative, more risk-taking, or is it the opposite?
I think it's people are taking more risks. I do think that MasterChef started, I think, kind of in the infancy stage of social media. And prior to social media, if a chef wanted to learn how to, do open fire cooking, they had to go and work with a chef, the great Francis Walnut, for example, and write in a letter and hopefully get a response and hop on a plane and go there. If you wanted to learn how to make the best omakase meal in Japan, you have to go to Japan and beg for a job. In my case, when I wanted to work with Grand Adrian at Albuli, I had to write a letter, and I had to fly there, and I had to work there, and I had to earn it, and I had to go through all the struggles of being there and actually learning something. We now live in an era where you just click and drop, and you have all this information that is available to you so easily, so quickly. And there's kind of two camps in this. There's one camp of people that are like, oh, this new generation, have it too easy. They're not that great. They're weak, they're soft. I think the other way around. I think it's an incredible time to be a chef. And I think that there's so much knowledge and information out there that there's really no excuses anymore. I hope that, the restaurants get better and the chefs get better because of that. But yeah, we live in I've heard the saying a long time, info-rich, knowledge-poor world right now.
Well, it's decontextualized information. So, like, I watch cooking videos online. I watch Marco Pierre White, Francis Mallman. I watch various people for certain dishes, and so getting the information. Even one Marco Pierre White video where he's talking about scrambled eggs, without a foundation prior to watching that video, it would just be decontextualized information, and maybe I could get it to work, but I wouldn't necessarily have the tools to understand why it worked. And so I don't think there's ever any substitute for culinary school or staging in a restaurant, but certainly I think home cooks are much more refined and global in their resources today.
Yeah, I mean, they just have so much information, and if you want to learn, for example, like a technique that Fred Adria and his brother Albert figured out, sarification, which I believe they figured that out in the early 90s. Nowadays, you don't need to go somewhere to learn it. You can click, get on YouTube and there's a video for it. But there's something really, I think, really beautiful about the struggle, like really having to, in my case, for example, being at Pearson Airport, waiting for Air France to come pick me up and take me to Spain, only to realize that my plane just crashed on the runway and is in a ball of fire on the side of the road in Toronto, 2005. And finally getting on the next flight to Europe the following day and going all the way up this town to get to Albuli, and only to find out that they had already told my contact that it wasn't possible, I could not work there. My builder told me, only to have to beg to get the job, to still be rejected, and then told me tomorrow at 1 o'clock they'll let you know if the right degree says you can come or not. And then finally getting in. So I think there's something really like romantic about that struggle, like having to claw your way up, and like that scene in Batman where Batman has to crawl up that hole to get to the top when he's on all these ledges. But imagine how that would do a suck if you were down some elevator and just went up. So I wouldn't have done it, and I wouldn't do it any other way. I think having to convince and sell yourself and really pitch, what you want to do and convince people. I think that there's something really beautiful about that, and I really admire that. I don't think it should be easy. I think it should be a little difficult,
Do you think, I look at a young chef, I look at all chefs, all artists, like a musician. And, when I hear a young guitarist, they're trying to show off every lick they know and use the wah-wah pedal and the whammy bar and just show you that they're a virtuoso. But as you become more seasoned and you actually become a virtuoso, you stop trying to show so much and you just kind of relax into what you're doing with this more less is more mentality. And so you get more seasoned chefs who do something so basic and it's so perfect that they might not have been able to do when they first started out. And so, you know, we're talking about MasterChef. I'm sure a lot of those home cooks years later, after having continued over years, are probably much more refined today. And I'm wondering about you. I mean, I've known you since I was a busboy at Preemie. I'm wondering about your cooking, how your attitude, and as you've evolved through your career since those early days, how that's affected your cooking, whether in the restaurant or at home. If what you put on the plate, or if what you conceptualize to put on a plate has changed as you've matured as a man as well as a chef.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at my cooking career and my life as a book in many ways, and there's chapters and seasons in everyone's lives, and I think that it's important to, as a creative person, and I always use that very carefully. I don't want to be all an artist or anything like that, but just someone who does appreciate creativity. I think it's important to just kind of change lanes and do things differently. And when I look back at my older day, when I do look back at my life, you know, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever retire because I do love cooking. I enjoy it so much. But I'm going to look back at different chapters and different seasons and episodes in my life. And, you know, when I look back, I see, you know, I got to work with Douglas Rodriguez, the greatest Latin American chef in the world. I got to spend time at Albuli. I met Curtis Duffy, Charlie Trotters. My cooking went from, you know, Southwest cooking to Southeast cooking to learning a little bit about French. Well, I actually learned a lot about French when I was training at an early age, to going to work at Nobu and, you know, in London and doing a stage there. From there, going to the Sugar Club, and then from the Sugar Club, I went to Thailand. It's all these things. I look back at my career now, and it's a mosaic of a lot of different things. And I use a lot of like analogies a lot in my life, and I like right now, obviously, Bob Dylan is in the ether because of the movie that's coming out. And I look back at I've been looking at some of his interviews, and I've been looking at the moment when he switched from acoustic to electric, and everyone hated it, criticizing him. But I think it's an artist's job, a creative person's job, to do new things and to go off in different directions. And like right now in my life, I'm getting really interested in writing. I'm writing for a magazine. And I'm really thoroughly enjoying that part. It scares me. It's frightening. It's not something that I've done a lot in my life. Painting is something else I'm enjoying. But there's always, it's like almost like a drug addiction. Not that I've ever had a drug addiction, but restaurants are like an addiction for me. It's always a little, I think I need to go back and do another, whether it's a Homer Lane or an Origin or something that's going to disrupt a little bit and capture people's attention. So that is my goal for next year. I really like fiercely want to do something new. And it's nothing to do about money. I questioned it. I thought, why do I want to do this? Like, ask yourself, start with why. And I think there's a book called Start With Why. And I answered the question to myself, and the answer was, I just need to do this. I'm not thinking about anything. The money, there's no monetary gain from it. It's just really about doing something creative and fresh. So that's the next thing I'm going to do.
A lot of chefs, they seem to have that kind of restless spirit where there's something they need to do, and then hopefully you satisfy that need. But chefs move around a lot. It's rare that you find a chef who stays in one place for 20, 30 years. What is that? Like when you open a restaurant, do you have in mind that this is something you have to do right now and you'll do it just for a couple years? Or is it, do you have a longer term projection in mind for that one place?
I mean, if I could have my dream situation, restaurants for me would be kind of like films or an album. You would write the music, or you would score the film, direct the film, write it, get the screenplay written, cast the actors, do the production, film it. I like the idea of being able to do that in some ways with restaurants where you curate it, you come up with the vision, you empower the team, you have a chef that comes in that's really hungry, that is ambitious, that wants to be creative and work together and collaborate. But then you are able to back away a little bit, step back slightly, not all the way up, but you can never step back fully. And then you're able to do other things, other creative things that you want to do. I think that would be the dream scenario. And I think a lot of chefs want the same. I think they want that. I don't think most chefs do not want to be in one place forever. They get bored. I mean, it is boring. I'll be honest, and I think I can say this at my age now. Back in the day, it would have been probably a career killer, but it does get a bit, monotonous. Like you go in and you're cooking the same, like tasting menus. I mean, to be in a place where you're cooking the same 12 dishes every single day, like that to me is like complete boredom. Like, I would not.
I have to ask you about tasting menus. Why is it that with a tasting menu, when it's already set, why does it take so much longer? Like I know that if I order a tasting menu, I'm going to be sitting there for 3 hours.
Why does it take so long?
Yes.
I mean, I think first of all, tasting menus as a whole are very tricky. You need to tell a story, and you need to be very, very articulate and aware of talent fatigue. If you sit down for 3 hours and you're having a bite here, a bite, 10 bites, 12 bites, 15 bites, you got to make sure that they're different, because the person eating it will get bored. They will want to. They've won out. I can't imagine. I want to ask Sarah if she doesn't need to name names, but how many times she was like, "Someone please just get me out of here. I want a cheeseburger."
This is
Many times.
Like you get dull, right? Because it's kind of pretentious, and I don't enjoy it. Being in a tasting menu restaurant, it's not for me. I do appreciate it, and it's done really well. It tells a story, and it takes you on a little journey, and there's little U-turns, or there's just like dishes that surprise you. I love that. That's so exciting. But I don't enjoy the pretension of it at all. I find that me kind of tired.
Well, your dishes are so innovative, and we live in a time when diners can be so entitled, like they're watching reality TV. So I have to ask this: what happens if a customer sends back his dish, doesn't like it, says it's not good? What do you do? What do you do, and what do you think you'd like to do?
Well, the 20-year-old Claudio would be very upset and would declare war on that. Yes. The 50-year-old Claudio is a lot more zen and more, "I'm so sorry you weren't happy. Please tell me what I can do that's going to make you really happy. I want to make sure that's my goal. I'm not letting you leave unless you leave happy." And that comes with maturity. And I think, in fact, there's a scene in a Harry Potter film, and I remember seeing it with my daughter, and she was little at the time, maybe like 5 or 6. And then the little character, I forgot the name of this character, it's got like the mouse ears, said, "If you worry, you suffer twice." That stuck with me. I always tell my kids that. If you worry, you suffer twice. So, as a chef, if someone sends their food back and you decide you want to have a tantrum because of that, and you want to bring the entire kitchen down because of that, and you suffer twice, and you make everyone else suffer. So I try to figure out, again, going back to the word hospitality. What is hospitality? Right? It's making sure everyone's happy. So that's kind of how I deal with that. And I really mean that. I really want everyone to be happy and enjoy their stay. So yeah.
I bet it's almost like a full circle, because that's probably the very first lesson you learned when you were in the kitchen with your grandmother making the ravioli.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it is such a joy. Honestly, cooking for me is, I love it. I've had the best times of my life in kitchens and restaurants. I met the best people and some of the worst people in restaurants. But generally, I've met beautiful, incredible people. I've traveled the world because of it. I realized too that we're more similar than we are different. The kitchens are all the same. We're all the same, whether you're flipping burgers, or you are doing tasting menus or anything in between. Cooks are all the same. They're very, very similar people.
You have a great line, Mum, about cooking, that if you can eat your neighbor's cuisine. You know what I'm referring to?
Yes. If you don't, we're so multicultural. There are people here from all over the world, and you don't know who they are, and you can be a little wary and so on. But if you eat your neighbor's cuisine and you sit down and you eat their food with them, you're friends.
1,000,000%.
And that's such a human and wonderful thing. Food is love. Period.
I really believe in that. Working with a really, really brilliant man, Mohammed. He talks a lot about this, and he always said, "How can you hate someone with a feeling?"
That's right. Is that what you're doing now? What are you doing?
Yeah,
What are you doing now?
Yeah, right now, I am a culinary director for a small boutique company that's owned by Mohammed Faqih, and I've been with him now 2 years. It's been a really incredible learning curve for me. And I've made some really great friends there. I went to Via Allegro, which is a restaurant scheme that's been operating.
I know Via Allegro.
30 years. The chef Marco there has been there 20. The sous chef's been there 15 years. And we've made some incredible together. We made a lot of really incredible improvements. It's been amazing so far.
So are you opening a new restaurant?
And how quickly can we get a reservation?
I want to. It's all I think about all the time. I need to do it. I don't have anything to report yet, but I'm going to do it next year. That's happening.
I will wait.
Yeah, more happening.
Thank you.
I'm really, I dream about it. So when I start dreaming about something, it usually happens for me.
Do you have a concept in mind, or it's still nebulous?
I've got a few ideas. I've got a working title for it. But I'm still really figuring out what I want to do. I know that I want to do something that is going to be unique, and again, it's a cliche, but something that's very personal to me that kind of captures my love of music, design, food, hospitality, culture, all within one environment.
When you put all that together and you have this equation of what makes a successful restaurant, and that works, when you open Coburn Lane or when you open Origin, do you use the same equation in 2024 and 25, or do you have to factor in whether it's climate issues or the zeitgeist of what people are wanting or expecting, or the fact that we are such a more well-traveled population now and so much more multicultural? There are so many more demands than there ever used to be. Does that affect your calculus of how you pull this together?
I think the biggest factor for me now, more than ever, is I have a deeper understanding of what it is to be a leader and a deeper understanding of collaboration. I've always believed in it, but I have again, I think it's more important now than ever, especially post-COVID. I think a lot of cooks, servers in general, had a bit of a wake-up moment where they started thinking about their lives and what they wanted to do. I really think that hospitality, and going back to that word, starts with the people in the restaurant or the people that work with you, that you work together with. They need to feel really that they're part of something. They're part of a community. It's not just how much is my hourly rate, how much tips do I get. It's more than that. And I see there's great examples of that. I think in Toronto, of those restaurants that are starting to really emerge as places where people want to work, want to spend time there. So that's what I want to do. I really want to really curate a great team. That's the next move that I want to make. We're doing that now with the two current restaurants that we are operating. We have
What is that? What are they?
So we have Via Allegro, we have the Mario's in Burlington. And we have one or two incredible, very, very unique teams. But I think that is the key part of everything. Everything that we do is building that type of environment where people are happy, they're enjoying their work, they want to be there.
What is DeMario's? Like, I'm aware of Via Allegro.
It's basically a little Italian trattoria. So it's small. It's right out of the lake. It's a great little spot. I never thought my wildest dreams I would ever be culinary director for two Italian restaurants. Because I've always focused really on more global cuisines and very modern approaches to food. But for me, it's been just such a great, learning exercise just to learn more about Italian cuisine and culture. And I think I really think we've done a great job. Both restaurants are busy. We're getting, good responses from our guests, so it's good.
Now, you mentioned before that you did work with Fran Adria. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can only imagine what tools you glean from that. But then going to Thailand, that's a completely different base of ingredients, and I mean even the tools that you would use there are so different. And I'm wondering, I don't know how you align everything, but if there is one particular episode or experience or cuisine that impacted you the most, that informed your cooking today.
Wow, one that's impacted me the most, I would say, is Japanese cuisine. I'm terrified of it. I think that's the high priest of cooking. I mean, it is so exact. It's like there's chefs, and then there's there's Japanese chefs that are on a different level.
I think it's the one. Go ahead.
It's trigonometry instead of adding and subtracting.
Yeah, most of us are we're plenty checkers, and Japanese chefs are playing chess. It's different level. Day to day, technique, flavor, texture, and one movement. When we try to do those things, we make a lot more movements, and we want those to succeed. And I find it very humbling, and I've accepted something. I'll never be a great Japanese chef, and I think a lot of chefs would agree that.
Their cuisine seems to be. Their cuisine seems there's nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to hide. Yeah.
Because it's just when you have sashimi, that's just one ingredient. So it's not a cuisine where you can compensate. If something's too sweet, you add a little bit of this. You can't compensate with other ingredients because what you see before you is all that you have to work with. And so I went to one restaurant in Tokyo where the chef had a tuna, and that's all we had was tuna, but he prepared it in so many different ways, and he had a different knife for each part of the fish, and the different techniques that he was using for each course were masterful, but you can tell that he's been doing that his entire life, and that's what he does. So,
Adam,
yes.
Claudio, we're out of time.
Oh,
Wow.
Yes. And we really have to say goodnight. I just want to wish you sweet dreams, and I hope that they all come to fruition.
Oh, you're the sweetest. You are the sweetest. And I really, honestly, I marvel at the relationship you both have had with each other since you were born. Is that you have just a great mother and mentor, and it's beautiful. I really admire that a lot.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. And I've often said, because I'm very blessed with both my parents, but I've often said that people only knew about the king because the queen made it so. My mom is quite,
That's a great conclusion of this conversation.
yeah,
It's
my mom
true.
is quite an enigma. And so I relish this.
Amazing.
Well,
Thanks for your time.
good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you so much, Claudio.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Happy New Year
Bye-bye.
to you. Well, what do you think of our first episode?
Well, I thought it was very interesting. I mean, we both know Claudio. We both like him a lot, and we like what he does. And, we might as well have been sitting in a restaurant and having a conversation.
Yes.
So here's to the next one.
See you
And
next
here's
time.
to you.
Cheers. L'chaim.